What is the perfect cadence? Let's start with how many steps do you think you take every minute when you're running on average? It might seem like an irrelevant piece of information, but actually it can tell us a lot about how much energy you're using and potentially wasting, and also give an indication as to whether you're going to get injured or not. Cadence is just a fancy word for steps per minute. And as you'd imagine, different disciplines have a different typical cadence. Marathon runners run at somewhere between 180 and 190 steps per minute. 400-meter runners are about 220 to 260 steps per minute, and 100-meter sprinters hold a 280 to even more than a 300 steps per minute cadence. Now, clearly, as you might have guessed, there's no perfect cadence. Proficient runners tend to move between 170 and 180 steps per minute. And while creeping up isn't a problem, it is when we start getting to the lower end of that bracket, or even lower than 170 steps per minute, that we need to start looking a little bit more closely. When you're running, every step you take, your body is taking between 2 and 3 times your whole body weight in ground reaction force. So if you weigh 75 kilos, each foot strike can generate between 150 and 225 kilos of force through your lower limbs. And the fewer steps you take, the lower your cadence, the more that number creeps up. So now if we take that to its logical extreme, we're going to have a look at this sprinter. Very high cadence, and it almost looks like the athlete is gliding. And now when we reduce the cadence right down and have a look at a triple jumper and compare, you can see he's pounding the floor, and the amount of force going through his lower limbs are drastically higher than it was for the sprinter. In fact, a triple jumper can experience up to 22 times their body weight in ground force reaction, which is an incredible amount of stress going through their knees. Now, obviously that is fine for trained athletes and very low reps, but in our 5K, we are going to be going through thousands of reps, and we want to do everything we can to keep the stress on our joints as low as possible, and that means holding a cadence of between 170 and 180 steps per minute. So now I'm going to ask you to go to your Strava and have a look at the cadence for your 5-kilometer time trial. This is mine up on the screen. It averaged out at 174 and peaked at 186. It's important to note that hills are going to play with your cadence. So if you are going up or downhill in your 5K time trial, which I'd avoid because it's difficult, then you will see slight fluctuations in your cadence, and that's too much of a problem. Just something to be aware of when we're analysing cadence. If you do see that your cadence is around the 160 mark and it's low, we are going to try and pick it up, but we're going to do so slowly. I only want you to try and pick it up by about 5% a run, because if you change your gait too much and change your cadence, not only is it going to feel uncomfortable, but you do have a slight risk of injury. So just focus on shortening your stride ever so slightly, striking the floor underneath your body instead of in front of your body, and trying to glide instead of bound. At first, it might feel weird, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's just different to what you're used to. I want you to check your Strava, see if you've got up slightly closer to that 170 to 180 mark, and then constantly review and see what feels comfortable, see what feels efficient, and see if your time improves as a result. And that is just one more way of running faster without actually having to get fitter. Looking forward to your feedback on that. Give it a shot and let me know how you get on.